Welcome to the Stage Analysis Members Midweek video. I'm going to try and keep it reasonably brief for you tonight. We're getting to the later portion of the week, and this one's a little bit delayed because of the delayed video earlier in the week. And then we're going to get back to the normal weekly schedule from the weekend onwards. So starting off today with just a quick go through the indexes before looking at what's been going on in the watch list. So the S&P and the other major indexes have had a strong move initially this week. We had a few strong days before starting to consolidate over the last few days on around the 21-day moving average. You can see here 2 days of testing that and starting to pull back in. A little bit of an inside day today on the S&P 500, but we haven't yet pulled back below the gap, so still holding up. Got a spring type behavior here with a potential test. So if this can actually follow through to the upside, then potentially we could see a follow through day type event on the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. You can see the percentage of stocks above the S&P percentage of S&P 500 stocks above their 20-day EMA moved up out of the lower zone. I've talked about this on previous videos. You want to see that move through the key 30% level after being in the lower zone and on all of the major charts. So we've seen that this week. We've moved to a positive environment in the short term here, unless this starts to fail and falter and fall back down again. We're also above the 5-day moving average as well. And the bullish percent index intraday has also moved up above its short-term moving average. So short-term status change early in the week to a positive environment status, and that has remained even though we've had 2 days of consolidating here. So we move on to the Nasdaq. You can see very similar behavior. Tested the 21-day moving average today, as you can see here, and pulled back a little bit, but again still above the previous day's low, and still holding since Monday and Tuesday's big move up there. So holding up in the upper range here. So at the moment we've got a spring type event and a potential test. So how far this pulls back in the test will give us a little bit more information on how strong or how weak this is. As if it starts to pull back, fill the gap and start to get back down towards the lower end of the range, then we've got much more chance of it making a continuation breakdown lower. But if it can hold up above the gap area in here and start to move up through the 21-day moving average here, then as I said in the previous bit, we could actually have a follow through day and then continue up towards the 50-day moving average, which would then start to build out a broader stage 1 base structure. But as I said, at this point here, we're still in a testing phase following the spring type action. So it could still quite easily fail here and fall back and make a stage 4 continuation lower. But for the moment, we remain within this stage 1 base structure that's been developing for the last 4 months or so, as we are in the Russell 2000 here as well. So lots going on at the moment in the major indexes as they try to build a potential stage 1 base structure, obviously in a tentative position as we're at the lower end of the range, and so could quite easily fall down into stage 4 once more. We've got most of them are on a weekly SATA rating, which is the Stage Analysis Technical Attribute Score of 0 still. So we need to see a lot more improvement in order for it to give more confidence again that we could be potentially moving up in stage 1 and out into stage 2 again. But for the moment, we're obviously in a very tentative, whether this is stage 1 or whether this is just a redistribution range within stage 4 or not. So more info needed, but we are moving into a potentially seasonally strong period in the presidential cycle and in just an average year as well. So as we move into the later part of October through to January, February sort of time. So we will see how that pans out at the moment, but we're certainly in position for a strong move of a lot of stocks sold out as such, with the bullish percents and the moving percentage of stocks above their various moving averages at very, very low levels historically. So they could obviously stay at those low levels and we could have a much deeper correction, but they are obviously in a position to have a strong move into year end potentially, if we can start to recover and get back above some of these short-term moving averages. So all to play for at the moment. If we go into the short-term moving breadth charts here, so this is the bullish percent intraday chart, so the 1 hour chart that I use for short-term market timing here. So as I said previously, this moved up to a They open on Tuesday in the Nasdaq and the NYSE to a positive environment status, and you can see it's remained with the percentage of stocks on point and figure buy signals expanding in both the Nasdaq and the NYSE through the week, even though the market has been consolidating. So that's continued to move higher there. We look at the percentage of stocks above their 20-day moving average. As I said in the S&P 500 one earlier, that moved above the 30% level. The Nasdaq here also moved through the key 30% level out of the lower zone and has held up above that since. So that remains on a positive. The Nasdaq 100 doing similar, moved up above the 50% level and has pulled back in a little, but still holding above that lower zone. So also on a positive. NYSE doing the same, currently at 40.62%, small caps at 46% doing the same, and the S&P 500 at 40.2% and doing the same. So short-term breadth is on a positive status at the moment with these near-term changes. We go into some of the watchlist stocks. So I wanted to highlight first, on yesterday's post, I talked about the software group and highlighted it again as it's been coming up in the watchlist quite regularly. I think every day, I think there's been stocks from the software group for a little while now, for many weeks. So even though obviously the group overall has been moving very much in line with what the market's been doing. You can see from the relative strength here, it's still below a declining zero line, but it's been very much going sideways in line with the S&P 500 since around May. So if this can continue to stay in line, it could start to catch up with that zero line and start to turn back positive again. But at the moment, we've got a potential spring type event similar to what we've seen in the market indexes, and attempting to move back up into the range, which potentially could be a developing stage one base. As I said earlier in the video on the indexes, if this starts to falter around here and we start to see a break to the lower side, if the test ends up being a very weak one, then we could see obviously a continuation breakdown to lower levels. But if the test can hold and we get a move up towards the declining 10-week moving average here and start to move back through that again, then potentially we could go on to test the 30-week moving average and continue to build out in this stage one structure here, which with individual software stocks, which we've been seeing in the watch list, there's quite a few actually developing near the upper end of their stage one base structures and potentially attempting to break out into stage two already. So there are some that have already broken out, but the vast majority, like the ETF here, remain in a stage one base structure, with some obviously developing better than others, as it's quite a big group. I think there's more than 300 stocks in the group, so this is a good proxy for the group, the IGV. But obviously individual stocks you'll be looking for with the stage analysis method. We want to look for the leading stocks within the group, as obviously with so many showing up at the moment, it's certainly an area of interest, even though it's not one of the strongest stocks in terms of relative strength overall, but it is an improver. So definitely an area to look into.